Hey there, and welcome to the Exponential Next webinar. We're really glad that you joined us today. I'm Carrie Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Exponential Next, part of the Exponential team, and we're thrilled that you joined us for what I think is a very important conversation for our day and time around AI. And I have with me my dear friend and Director of AI Next for us, Kenny. Kenny, introduce yourself, friend.
Hey, everybody. Dialing in from the great state of New Jersey today and excited. We've been doing a lot of work at AI Next over the last 2 years, and hopefully, some of you guys have met me in person at one of the national or global events. In fact, if you could just put that in the chat, how did you find us today? And have you been part of Exponential Global or National? We'd love to just get a sense of who's in the room. But Carrie, we've been doing a lot of research and we've been doing a lot of talking to leaders across the country. And also, even at our last national conference, it was, I think, really great to have both on the West Coast and Chicago, just meeting in person in the room. And I'm looking forward to our next national conference that are coming in the fall. So, really excited to just share some of the learnings that we have here today.
Yeah, Kenny, I'm excited as well. And for those of you who aren't aware, this is the second annual AI survey that we've done together with
Yes.
Kenny and the organizations that he represents. And he'll dive into those organizations a little bit too, because I want you to know about them. But this is the second year that we've done this. And so the really cool thing that we get to do together today is not only do a deep dive into what this survey uncovered for this year, but also compare it to what we discovered last year and
Yeah.
see where we've kind of made some shifts and where the church has been moving as far as leadership and their thoughts and their viewpoints and even their adaptation. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
Utilization of AI. So, Kenny, do you want to just go ahead and jump right in with what we've learned along the
Absolutely.
way?
Yeah. So we what we're going to do today is give you basically a high level overview. Maybe it's 10,000 foot, maybe it's 20,000 foot, but we want you to actually dive into the full report. It is available on the Exponential site. We'll give you all the details and how to download the full report. One of the biggest things that I would suggest for everyone here today is to take time to download it and share it with your team and use it as conversation fodder at your next team meeting, at your staff meeting, or even just any circle of influence that you have in your church and in your community. Because I think it's going to be a really good conversation starter. So, what we're going to do today is go rapidly through some highlights of this. And I just want to share a bunch of glimpses of what our survey is talking about today in 2025. And then hopefully we'll get some Q&A. We don't have a live chat here, but if you actually have the Q&A option here, you can actually submit some things, and Andy and our team are going to try to moderate those, and we'll get to some of those questions. And if we don't get to all of them here today, you should just continue to follow us on the Exponential AI Next website, because we will be publishing more articles and interviews and videos, etc., all here to resource you and your team. So today we're going to go through some findings. Like Carrie said, what is the current state of utilization? And we're going to see what pastors and church leaders have been talking about in terms of their perceived benefits and applications that they're using AI for today. And also, I think what's really equally important is what are the challenges and the concerns that your peers are actually bringing up today? And then the policies and training options that everyone is pursuing, because I think you'd want to learn what is out there so that you can take the next steps in AI adoption. So, just a little bit about the survey, a little bit nerdy stuff. A lot of people want to know like what everyone else is doing, but when they look at surveys, they tend to say, "Hey, this isn't really applicable to me," or "You're not really serving people of like my neck of the woods, my corner of the internet." And what we've done is we've actually gone out and done the hard work of trying to get a really good cross section of church leaders out there. And actually, we've gotten enough responses that we now have a 95% level of confidence statistically, plus or minus 5%. So this gives you a broad brushstroke of what's happening in the landscape of the church. And as you can see, we've gotten a good smattering of roles across all the different staff levels and even some volunteers there, and even sizes of church. So this is not just, hey, all the mega churches with big budgets and IT tech staff. You can see there are actually a good representation across the average size churches that are out there, and hopefully even you that's watching this video as well as cross generation. So it's not just the what you might think is just the younger generations that are tech forward and adopting AI like crazy. No, actually, you can see this bell curve, and that is actually representative of what we have today. So, what we aim to do is give you a glimpse of the state of AI, what is actually happening in the church today with respect to this, so that you are equipped to take some of these key findings back to you and actually get a sense of, hey, this is a little bit surprising, and this might help us spur the conversations, or the other way around, and try to figure out where we need to slow down, pause, and have some more discernment. So the first key finding, I think, overall, which was a surprise to me, between 24 and 2025, is that 91% of respondents are actually for the use of AI in a ministry context to some degree. What's interesting is I actually thought we'd have a much larger percentage of the pie that is against AI. But today's world, we have less than 10% of church leaders that are fully against AI. We have 91% that are open to it and that are embracing it, actually. And that needle has moved between 2024 and 2025. So in 2024, we had 13%, almost 15% of the church said, no, we should not use AI. I'm totally against it. And that has declined. We've seen a shift in perspectives. And I think that's related to how churches are actually using AI today. And so when you actually look at that, when we ask the question, like, what best describes your perspective of how it relates to ministry? Is it a threat, or is it something we should really take advantage of? You're seeing that, people are optimistic and they're seeing it as a new tool. In fact, 46% of church leaders are leaning toward the optimism and saying that, hey, we could use this. And in fact, 25% of leaders are using it daily. 25% of users are using it daily right now. And so that I think is really interesting. And you're seeing the shift as we march forward in time, that people are becoming experimental, very cautious, but experimental. But almost half are optimistic and actually leaning forward and learning about AI. And you see this bell curve shifting. This is not the typical adoption. We are shifting even more aggressively than
Mhm.
we usually think in technology. So I think that's a
Hey,
positive thing.
can you
Yeah.
pause right there? And you always share with me that AI is moving at a rapid pace like blockbusters.
Yes.
And so do you think that, and talk a little bit about that and how this reflects it, in the sense that it's not the typical bell curve, and it's, uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, in my past life, one of the roles that I did was part of a dot-com incubator, and in that space, when we're dealing with startups, we talked about innovation in talks in terms of dog years. So, in a single calendar year, you would have 7 leapfrogs, 7 significant advances in technology, and I feel like in this day and age of AI, we're even beyond that. So, whatever ages faster than a dog, we are there. And I think that's why we are actually leapfrogging, and we're seeing significant leaps. And with each leap, there are these really concrete, practical use cases that everyone else is seeing, which I think just accelerates to say, hey, it's not just a micro improvement, it's significant. So I'll give you an example, Carrie. In our global conference that we just had, one of the sessions, we had a no code session. So we came to the session and we asked everyone in the room, what do you want to build today with AI where we don't even need to code? We don't need to have a CS degree. We don't need to know any Python or any of these nerdy things. If you could just chat with ChatGPT, you can build an app. And we were able to, in the 1 hour that we were allotted, we were able to build a fully functional kids check-in app, complete with labels and QR codes. And then someone said, hey, the kids have allergies. And so we had an allergy tag that was color coded and admin back panel. And that was all done in an hour. And so it's these leapfrogs, I think, Carrie, that we're seeing that are concrete steps forward that we could not have thought of that 2 years ago. And now we're able to do it now. That I think people are saying, wow, I'm going to pay attention to those things now. And it's
Mhm.
making me optimistic and leaning and learning forward, learning about this stuff on a very practical basis.
Yeah, pretty
That,
amazing.
that I think is really important. And here's the other thing, Carrie, 61% are actually rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands on the keyboard and actually using it. Last year, less than 50%, 43% of people were using it on a regular basis. We're now over the tipping scale. That's 61%. And so this change is really important, right? All the rooms that I've been training in workshops and seminars and conferences, this last bar graph on the right-hand side, where last year, 44% of the people in the room um, were not using it yet, and now only 11% haven't used it yet. That's a huge shift in
Yes.
in adoption and just trying it out. And it's one of those things that if you just start using it, you get sucked in because you can see how it's not scary and it's not this evil thing, but it actually has some practical use cases and it opens the door. The other thing you can see here, like the daily use and the weekly use have jumped. The weekly use has jumped almost triple from 12% to 36% of the people out there in church land are using it on a weekly basis. And so I think anecdotally, Carrie, that I hear, oh, many people in my ministry aren't using it yet. I think there's a reality check there that if you actually had a staff meeting or even just, you know, uh, pulled people in the water cooler, the kitchen, the conference room, and just have a show of hands. Who's using AI? I think you would be actually surprised at how many people are actually using AI for ministry or on a daily or weekly basis anywhere that you go today. And so, to me, that's encouraging because the
Mhm.
more we use it, the more you're able to think critically of it, the to think intentionally about it instead of having uninformed opinions about it.
It's good.
Um, so another thing that our state of AI report actually asked about, and everyone here probably is interested in, is like, how do you actually use it? What are you using AI for? And what's interesting is it's not just, I thought it would be skewed way toward just the content creation because that's the sexy thing that we see on social media. Hey, I created this. I created this. I created a devotional from a sermon. I created this image or picture. What I'm encouraged by is that there are these underdogs use cases that are being actually experimented with and integrated into the workflows. So research, administrative work. These are the types of things that I think are actually the sweet spots for AI. And it's not just content creation. And so that to me is a very good thing. I think we're going to see a much more evening out of these bars, hopefully in the future as we get AI adoption. So drilling down even more practically, everyone keeps on asking me is like, what AI tools is everybody using? What should I look at? And here's what your peers are using right now, just to give you a sense. And you don't even need to screenshot this because you can download this. The actual full report is available completely for free from Exponential. So you can download this later. You don't need to worry about it. But you're seeing the common tools like ChatGPT and Claude and Grammarly and Perplexity, etc. But you're seeing some of these other types of tools that are starting to enter into the fray. And so this makes sense. The most popular big tech tools are there, but now you're starting to see church specific, ministry specific, task specific types of tools starting to be introduced into the workplace at church. So I just wanted to just take a quick look at the top 5 tools that church leaders are using today. So the first one, obviously, is ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is the square one where you should start. If you're not an expert in AI and you're not using it on a daily basis, and you want to get up to speed, start with ChatGPT. It is the one that has the most momentum. They are continuing to improve it. They just added amazing image generation capabilities. So you don't need multiple tools. You can go to this one tool and start to use it for many different uses. The next one is Grammarly. This actually surprised me. If you look at the thing, 11%, more than 1 in 10 users out there, staff members, are using Grammarly. Everyone should be using Grammarly. It is more than just a spell check.
Yes.
It's like my seventh grade English teacher would be proud if I'm using Grammarly today. She's not making tons of sales for Staples anymore with those red pens that she had to buy all the time, marking up my papers. But Grammarly is the thing that now is available so that you can actually speak or write clearer, more intentional, more persuasive, more concisely. It's not just a spell check. And so there's tons of features that Grammarly is using. I recommend it for everybody. And the reason why I recommend Grammarly over ChatGPT or other things is because it tends to be the less controversial use of AI, right? It's hard to argue against the tool that makes you easier to understand and clearer in your messaging. It's not the controversial stuff that other tools have. Microsoft, if you're a Microsoft shop, they have Copilot, and they continue to integrate it into all of their Office and Microsoft 365 products. We just were with the national headquarters at the Salvation Army, and they are embracing Microsoft Copilot across their organization. And we showed them how they can write emails with Copilot. You could actually create PowerPoint presentations with Copilot. So there's a lot of traditional work type of things, not the fun little novelty stuff, but really good things that you can do with Microsoft Copilot. Google has its own version called Gemini, and that thing is getting stronger and stronger. And it's one of those things where you cannot take your eyes off of Google just because of their investment in all things tech. Canva is the last one that I would highlight. Canva alone, every church should be using it and be exposed to it. If you are a 501c3, Canva has a nonprofit program that you can qualify and get the pro version for free. And so everyone should be using Canva. It's volunteer friendly. It's friendly for people who are not tech literate, and they have integrated native AI things for the use there. So if you want to take baby steps but really want to look good,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things there. And here's the thing that most people don't know about Canva yet is that they have a Google Docs type of tool. So you can now write in there and then design it and look good. And they have AI tools and all this other stuff. So um, those are the 5 tools that people are using the most. I recommend checking them all out. They're all really good, top-notch stuff. Okay, let's get into something that might be a little bit more controversial, but I think if we do it responsibly, we can do it well. That's sermon prep. And here's an interesting thing that I think surprises everyone every time I show this slide. So we asked everybody, so not everybody taking our survey actually is involved with sermon prep, right? So not everyone's a teaching pastor. So we asked that question first on the left. Are you involved with preparing sermons? So 69% said yes in some capacity. So of that subset, we then asked, hey, have you used AI as part of your sermon process? And guess what? 64% said yes. Now, this is a jump from last year, and I think it's significant. It's double-digit jump. Last year was 43% said yes. This year, 64%. And so last year, more than half the people, almost 60%, right? 57% said, no, I don't use AI in my sermon prep process. And now it's going down to about a third. This is a huge, huge shift that I don't think if most people were guessing today before this webinar, they would have imagined that it's this high of a number. And yet we have all these questions of these objections that you can't use AI in sermon prep, et cetera. And so I think if you surveyed these 64% that are actually using AI tools, they would have very thoughtful conversations of how to use it well, what areas of sermon prep, how do you discerningly use it that actually allows you to be strategic and helpful versus just let it write the entire sermon for you. There are very good ways that you can steward the technology. So the next category of things that we talked about was perceived value. So where can AI actually disrupt our work? And it's interesting that sermon prep is obviously there. I think that's great. Communication is great. Here's the surprise for me.
Mhm.
Counseling and pastoral care made the top 3 list.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting to me where I think over this next year, we're going to need to dive deeper, talking to people who use it in this use case. How are they using it? Why are they using it? When are they using it? And then more importantly, where in pastoral care and counseling do you not use it? Because The thing that I try to say all the time is just because you use AI does not mean you have to use it all the time or none of the time. There's something in between. And so, pastoral care and counseling, discipleship is really interesting. Even worship is another subsection that I think is really interesting. So let's go to discipleship. Our theme at Exponential this past year is about discipleship. And so this thing to me, I think, is just really interesting because most pastors will say 2 years ago that it should have nothing to do with discipleship activities. And yet now we see that 90% of the people say they see value of AI tools in discipleship pathways. I mean, just pause for a moment and just think about that. That is a huge, huge number, 90% of pastors. That pretty much says everyone agrees that we have to start thinking about how we might use AI tools in discipleship. And so that and counseling, I think, are the two areas that we have to start to think about.
Mhm.
So back to counseling and care. We actually asked, how would you use it? This was the start of our research in this area. And this is, I think, what I love. I'm proud of our peers here because they're saying, hey, it's for research, it's for insights, it's asking for, it's like a mentor, right? It's like a coach. I'm asking, answering FAQs or giving recommended resources for congregants, like books and articles and support groups. This is like a second pair of hands that I think is non-controversial. Hey, I could recommend to read this, to watch this video, to see these articles. And I love this third one is that pastors are using it to simulate and role play before they have those difficult conversations to uncover potential objections. Um, this is where AI is amazing at. And so I love this. And I think we need to develop better best practices. But I think this slide here and these use cases are great conversation fodder for any staff meeting, whether it's for your pastoral care team or not, to start
Yeah.
to think through how we might think about AI very differently when we steward it well. There's a way to use AI for good. Okay, and then as we keep on moving forward, what does the future look like with AI, right? How do you think AI will impact the church effectiveness? Yes or no? And obviously, I think everyone is seeing the optimism and the upside of AI, not just the fear-based downsides of AI. And so this is, I think, an encouragement for us. But it means that we need to go and actually tackle the hard questions, ethical stuff, right? Moral stuff. And so there are concerns about ethics. What are they, right? And so we just know there are ethical concerns and we need to be responsible. So, in order to help leaders like you watching today, we started to actually dig and see what church leaders are actually wrestling with actively right now, proactively. They're thinking about things, and none of this is like surprising, but I think it's helpful for you to start to think of these things on your own. Theological misalignments, replacement of human interactions, privacy and data, which I'm surprised it's so low on the scale, especially with our society and big tech and social media and all this stuff. We've gone through that rodeo already, and yet it's not the number one idea. Transparency and accountability, and then fairness and bias. So these are the top concerns, right? So theological misalignment, I think, is one of those things where you're starting to see AI tools that are church specific that are addressing the concerns of leaders. So, for example, there's a great tool called Tapos.app. They actually allow you to put guardrails up and seed the AI brain with only the content that you want. So, if you like, say, the Bible Project, they have great videos and explanations of theology. You can take all their videos and content and use that as the basis. You can upload all of your sermons and use that as the basis, and it will refer and actually then point to those resources instead of just giving you these random answers from the sky. So, theological misalignment, I'm encouraged because we're starting to see new tools being developed for the church. Next one is replacement of human interactions. And I think this is a big concern of mine. It's a big concern of everybody else. We are going to be just isolated even further because when I simulate and I have chatbots and identities where we actually interact with them, start to have simulated relationships, um, they could be more empathetic, more consistent, more caring, than my friend, my spouse, my family members. And so this is where it is a concern. Now, here's another big surprise. Most people don't know, the leaders that we talk to in our rooms, that typically um, younger generations, ChatGPT is not the most popular AI site that they go to. It is actually character.ai. If you've never heard of character.ai after this, or even open up a new window and go there right now, because Gen Z and Alpha are using character.ai more than ChatGPT. And character.ai basically has all these personas, famous people, authors. You can chat with C.S. Lewis. And basically, you're going to start to see these things evolve where they're going to remember and have the interactions and have relationships with you based on those characters of celebrities and movie stars and authors and characters, etc. And so this is our next generation, what is being normalized. And this is the concern that I think is mapped to it. We, as leaders in the church, need to wrestle with and have discussions of what does that mean. Again, privacy and data is definitely an issue that everyone needs to talk about, and transparency and accountability. This is where AI policies come into play. Every single organization, whether you're for or against AI, should have an AI policy, because you need to talk about, when do we give attribution, when do we share that we use AI, and when do we not. It is very, very context specific for the culture of your own community. So these are the top concerns, and I think we're going to try to still dig deep in them. So if you follow Exponential AI Next on our website, we have articles on there on a consistent basis. We're starting to look at these specific topics, the topics that you actually responded to in the surveys, to help us and guide the content that we're trying to build and the resources to help you. So these are great concerns. The other question that I thought was very interesting is, which one do you think has the most significant risk for your own congregation community? And so this is interesting. Misinformation and overdependence on technology are the two. I think you can have ministry programs, workshops, things like that that actually help your people wrestle with these things. And this is the final section, the AI policies and training. So are you willing to invest in AI education? Everyone overwhelmingly said yes. I'm encouraged by this. And so this is why this is propelling our team here at Exponential Next, because this is what you said you need. And there really aren't that many places to go to. And Exponential AI Next is trying to fill that gap for some of it for you. So this is the other question. Do you actually have an AI policy? This is square one. Overwhelmingly 73% say no. Hopefully in this next year, this bar graph will change radically, so that you guys can all be on the same page with your staff, with your volunteers, with your community members. I think it's super important. And then regarding the resources that the felt need of, how do I help my staff and teams adapt? Tutorials are very great. YouTube is your friend. AI Next is your friend. We have other resources. Ministries specific use cases. This is what we continue to do at our conferences. So if you come to our national conferences this fall, we have specific ministry use cases that you can actually learn from. And we frame it in the third one, the basics of AI, so that you don't need to be a nerd to understand and learn how to use AI. This is the entire philosophy. So this is why you should come to our national conferences and meet other people, right? The last one, the peer discussions and community, is what's so helpful for everybody. So as we wrap up this portion, I just want to give you some next steps for what you want to do. Experimentation, education. You got to start the discussions internally, and then start to build frameworks so that you personally as a leader can actually exercise really good discernment. I think that's really important. So here are a couple of things. Again, this is all available in the report that's downloadable completely for free. We have a great podcast. The Exponential podcast is awesome to begin with. And then we have so far published 2 mini series of podcast interviews, season 1 and season 2. You can go look them up on the AI Next podcast. Educational resources at our AI Next site. And then a peer-to-peer learning group. So we have about 7,000 members in our Facebook group called AI for Church Leaders that I've started. I highly recommend you be part of it. everyone from beginners to expert. We are all just trading notes every day. And then if you want some really, really basic training, this is the pathway I would suggest. One, again, ChatGPT is square one. And so my team has created a course called ChatGPT for Churches.com. It is meant for beginners, and it is the number one place that you should go first. Second is we have monthly live workshops. And so you can be a part of the training every single month or cherry pick the topics. And so that's another way to actually get the latest, greatest, and more practical tools. And then come to our West and Central events that are still happening this year. Those are the places that you can meet other leaders, ask questions in real time, and wrestle with things in your teams. Bring your teams to Exponential and wrestle with it there. That's all I have for today. There's way more in the full report. And so this is the place that you should get it. There's a QR code there, or you can go to exponential.org/AI 2025. This is the report. I would love your feedback. We want to figure out what else you want to know and learn about. And so this is not just a one-way thing. We want a conversation with you. And again, I'm just going to put this up. We actually have a discount coupon code, some incentive for everyone that came to this and is watching this presentation. If you use the coupon code AI 2025, you actually get an additional discount off of the tickets for Castro Valley, West Coast, as well as Central, the two national conferences coming up. Those are the great places. I love meeting all of you and our teams, and we learn so much from you. It's a two-way street, and I just encourage you to do that. That's all I have for today, Carrie. Fast and furious,
Okay.
and I think we have some time for questions, maybe.
Yeah, so we do have some questions, Kenny, and I'm just going to read some of them to you. I'm not going to attempt to answer them because I am not the AI expert. Do you have any thoughts about how many young adults, next gen, are now boycotting AI due to their concerns about the impact on the environment, jobs, etc., including recent boycotting of Duolingo?
Yes. Um, so creation care, stewardship is something that Christians should deeply care about, and the younger generations have latched on to this. We're seeing some grassroots discussions about it, but nothing widespread. In fact, I think it's the other way around. Especially students, if you're in the educational system, whether it be high school, college, or even after, the actual numbers are the other way. That they are overwhelmingly using AI for all of their work on campuses. So that's not happening yet, but the conversations are happening in terms of what do we do with this. Now, I think there's a lot of answers, and I think we probably can have a whole other webinar and workshop around it. I will say at least one thing that's encouraging, Carrie, is that because of the innovation speed, um, chips are getting faster, computers are becoming more efficient. You're not needing as many servers to do the same thing. Um, we are going in a pathway. There's a thing called Moore's law that the innovation is happening so fast that eventually the energy consumption is being reduced for the same thing. Now, the consumption is exploding, so that offsets it. But yes,
Yeah.
we need to have more conversations. This is why we need Christians in the conversation to have to call it out and
Mhm.
to steward those conversations.
That's good. Next question. This comes from Nikki, and she says, I am most comfortable using AI for admin work. I work in admin, but I'm struggling to find how to use AI to increase productivity. It
Mhm.
sounds great, but I just don't know where to start. Any suggestions? I have Chat GPT and Google Notebook.
Yeah, I think the struggle is it's almost like paralysis by analysis. The last
Mhm.
quarter, there were over 1,000 AI specific apps launched into the world. No one could learn them all together. I think again, what I'm going to reach to is a very, very common thing is you need to find friends that you're using AI and trade notes. The show and tell type of mentality where you are just trading this. I've got a friend today that just texted me, "Hey, look what I made with this AI tool. Do you
Mhm.
today I was on another call and I showed another tool called Brandwell that creates long form articles to a writer. And so I think just trading notes is the number one way to figure out how to use AI to increase productivity for yourself, to find these specific use cases that really work. And another shout out for our AI for church leaders and pastors Facebook group. You got 7,000 friends that are
Mhm.
cheering you on. And if you start to look at what people are doing and showing, posting examples, you're definitely gonna get inspired. But conversations, show and tell, lead the way. You can convene your own circle of friends.
Yeah, that's good. We've got a question that says, how can we get training for a church leader or for church leaders in Africa, Ethiopia?
That's a great question. Um, I think I just had this conversation with the leader that was in Asia. And the question was actually with another one in Australia. There's all this great stuff that's coming out from the States because that's where a lot of resources are. Is it okay? Is it good for my context in Australia or other parts of Asia? And overwhelmingly, typically the answer is yes. The church models might be different. So the use cases that you might see as examples might be different. But if you understand how they're being used, you can translate them. So again, the ChatGPT for churches.com course, I think that's universal because it teaches you how AI actually works and how to use ChatGPT. And then from there, you can use it for whatever context that you have, whether you're in Ethiopia, whether you're in Asia, etc.
Mhm.
So I would start with just learning the basics of these tools like ChatGPT and then
Mhm.
experimenting, and you'll find the ways to use it locally.
Yeah, and Kenny, you guys offer that basics first step
Yeah.
for folks to take advantage of. Will you, Kenny, will you just share that in the chat so everybody has direct access to that so
Sure,
they can
sure. And
check it
again,
out while they're hanging
and
out?
well, here's a shameless plug. Download the full report, and there's all these
Yeah,
links
it's
in
all
the
in there.
report.
You're right. Yeah.
Download the report. So
Yes.
go, it's chatgptforchurches.com and
Mhm.
it's aiforchurchleaders.com. That's the place where you can get formal training, courses, structured training. But download the report. You'll find so much more there. So go to the exponential site and then you'll get all the resources available.
Nice. Okay, Kenny, Brad would like to know how much AI did you use in this presentation?
So typically, I actually, when you go to a presentation that I give at a conference, etc., typically the presentations are designed by AI. This one was a formal research project, so we have a team and staff. So this one was traditionally pulled together. But I will tell you this: you're going to see articles, you're going to see social media, you're going to see derivative content coming out of this project, and AI is going to be a heavy hand in that. So here's just one quick example. I uploaded this yesterday. This entire PDF I uploaded to Google Notebook LM, and I asked it to create a podcast episode, and it created an MP3 file of two people discussing it, and we'll publish that. And so AI is going to be all over the place. There's a place for it, and a lot of times it's fun. A lot of times it's confusing and frustrating, but not today. Not in this presentation here today.
We have a good question from Jim who is asking, what would a local church be missing out on if they decide not to use AI? Is there more than just a
Yes.
time usage disadvantage?
Yeah. So this is a great question. I get this a lot. I actually think the reason why I feel personally called. Let me frame it this way. I feel personally called right now. Last year I spoke at over 20 different events for education for AI and conferences. This year it's even more. This is not my main thing that I do vocationally. I feel called if there's 300,000 churches in North America alone, can I get to 5% of the churches in the next 5 years to take AI seriously, get some formal training, build an AI policy? The reason why is I believe it's more disruptive than when a church does not have a website. We understand, especially during COVID, if your church didn't have a website, you were effectively invisible to your people. If you did not have online giving, especially during COVID, you could not survive because people could not give you money online. I think the disruption is even further than that. And Jim, I think the big issue is leaders are looking for education to help them in their work, like you said, in terms of just getting smarter, time advantage, etc. But I think the real thing of importance and value is pastors and church leaders need to wrestle with what the implications of AI is, because job disruptions are going to happen. When AI becomes smarter than humans, that's called AGI. There's going to be huge implications there. And then the meaning and significance that people have and attach to their work is going to disappear. And
Mhm.
what do you do with that? What's my purpose in life if I don't work anymore, or I'm not needed anymore, or everything that I've invested in is all of a sudden gone? How do I reinvent myself? There's so many answers that the world will give, but the only thing that will satisfy is the one that's biblically based. Our biblical worldview is the only thing that will actually achieve peace and actually give life-serving solutions. The only way for us to be prepared is to learn and understand what AI is, so that we can minister not to just the people that come to our church now, but really the people in our zip codes. And so I
Mhm.
think that's really what you would be missing out on, that the relevance of where we are and what we offer then cannot be shared in a way that is meaningfully going to impact more people than you've ever had a chance to impact if you don't know how to wrestle with AI today.
Mhm. That's so good, Kenny. Um, Jason is asking the question if we recorded the session where you guys created the custom app. I we did not
No.
record it, video record it. So Kenny, are there other spaces and places that you offer through the organizations that you lead that somebody can engage with something like that?
Yeah, we did not record it. Well, here's my suggestion. Come to the next national conference and join us in the party. I mean, they are parties because we celebrate each other,
That's
we
right.
lift each other up. But um, assuming you've bought your ticket with that promo code and gotten your discount, um, I'm just trying to pack the room, Carrie. Pack the room for national
Well done,
conferences.
Kenny.
I
It
will
is like
say
a
there's
big
a couple of
family reunion when we all get together and we
oh,
learn
it
a lot from each other. So yeah,
yes, it
yeah.
is. And all the other next categories, like AI is the only one of
Mhm.
several next areas. You have to explore all the other next areas. But anyway, getting back to Jason's question, if you go into our Facebook group, we're starting to record some stuff. We will have a live workshop. So, for example, this month we have a live workshop on AI agents. So AI is now able to go out and do things on your behalf, make decisions without you come back. So that's the next monthly workshop. You can get information at aiforchurchleaders.com/next. We are scheduling one to do this no code type of thing. And the other place is September. We're going to actually gather in Kansas City, and we're going to have a 2-day build-a-thon. It's made for non-technical ministry leaders. Everyone's going to build their own thing with no-code apps, and we're going to do show and tells throughout the whole process. Guarantee it's going to be life-changing for a leader.
Mhm.
If you want information about that, I'll put it in the chat, or maybe Andy can put it into the chat. It is churchtechtoday.com/vibe. It's called vibe coding. The cool kids call it vibe coding today, because you're not actually coding. You just give the AI the vibe of what you want and actually produce it. So
So
you can
crazy.
come to that event if you want to.
So crazy. So, Johnny is asking if we can make some charts that distinguish between church ministries and parachurch ministries. Johnny, we don't currently do that, but Kenny, do you know of any surveys or research that also encompasses parachurch or other nonprofits?
No, we haven't seen that yet.
Not yet.
And then I would even ask Johnny, like, what are you looking for? How might we be able to help? I think there's many ways to possibly achieve the same objective that you're trying to figure out in terms of learning or insights that may not necessarily need those charts or the stats, or
Mhm.
even connect you with some cohorts of people.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. This might be our last question. We'll see how much time it takes to answer this one. I
Sure.
feel like it might be a little doozy. Aaron is asking, as AI increasingly influences how we communicate, think, and even make decisions, how do we discern the boundary between theological assistance
Mm.
and the displacement of the Holy Spirit? And where can the church engage in real spirit-led conversations about this tension?
I love this question.
Mhm.
This comes up a lot of times, especially in the conversation related to using AI in the process of writing sermons.
Mhm.
I have a lot of um, maybe controversial responses to that most people might feel. But here's the one challenge that I would just say in this conversation, and that is, do you believe that the Holy Spirit and that God and divinity does not have any control, power, or usage of things digital? Is there any divinity in the digital? And if you say no, then we have to compartmentalize it and treat it separately. And then it's man versus machine and that whole narrative. If you do believe that God can use bits and bytes, zeros and ones, and pixels and tech and digital to redeem and to do his work, then that's a whole other question. And then so that's one whole thing that we have to talk about. The
Mhm.
other one is, where do you see the Holy Spirit working? A lot of times in those objections of, hey, if you use AI to help write the sermon, there's no Holy Spirit in that. Is the Holy Spirit only in the manufacture of the words in the sentences, or is the Holy Spirit active in the person who's receiving the message and doing the work on that side as well? I think there's a multiple layers, but I think that's a very powerful question to consider, that says, where is the Holy Spirit actually working effective or needs to be or not need to be? I
Mhm.
think that's one of those questions. Now, overuse, over reliance, all that kind of stuff is related to this question, and that we need to actually fight, and we actually have to figure out not to be lazy. How do we not rely on AI first?
Yeah.
So there's multiple questions, and this is
Yeah.
why, Aaron, you need to have these questions. You need to start
Yeah.
to have those discussions. These are great lunchtime discussions.
Mhm.
But this we have articles. There's a couple articles on AI Next that talk about this. The podcast, I think there's a couple episodes that actually do talk about this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But we need to continue talking about this as a community.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And recognizing that we've faced these same kind of conversations in the past, they
Mhm.
just have been in a different context, right? So like listening to someone else's sermons and ripping things off from their
Yeah.
sermons, or um when you're preparing for your sermon, you're doing prep by reading multiple books and resources that you're pulling content and information from. And so I think it's an ongoing conversation of how we engage the Holy Spirit in leading us to be able to shepherd and teach others well. And it's a great question. I agree, Aaron, and one that I think just continually needs to be
Yes.
talked about because I think, you know, there's no, for some, it probably feels very black and white, and for others, it probably feels very gray. And until, I think it has a lot to do with the individual who's prepping and preparing. Um, but that's a different conversation. Johnny is asking if we have a list of upcoming conferences, cities, dates, etc. We do. This will also be in the slide, and there's a link that Andy dropped in the chat that shows all of our upcoming events. Um, I will just say that if any of you are looking at past these dates into our March date on our website, that is our Exponential Global, let me just say it this way without saying too much information. If you want to attend Global, get a ticket before the end of day Friday. That's all I can say about that. Because there may be no tickets left after that. So just that's for March Global, which also means that our national conferences are a great place to come and be with folks, and it's a little bit different pace than our global. It actually gives us a little more time to build relationships and have the kind of conversations that Kenny has been referencing about having those peer-to-peer conversations to learn from one another, engage in those. Um, Chris is asking if there's anything in the UK. We do have Exponential Europe, Chris, but as far as AI specific, Kenny, do you know of anything AI specific that reaches into the UK?
Yeah, so there is a good community called Missional AI. There was just a conference in Dallas. It tends to be a little bit more technical. It started with a community about global Bible translators and how to get to people groups where the Bible hasn't reached yet. And so Missional AI is a great place. They're open sourced, so like all of their talks from the conferences are available on YouTube. They just announced something in London, and so James Poulter, who's in London, is going to be one of the speakers. He actually was interviewed on our podcast, so you should go look up the Exponential Next podcast with James Poulter. He has a conversational AI background. His company um, was the number one Alexa app developer out there. And so he's got tons of experience in AI and voice, which is the next wave. So they just announced Missional AI is going to do something in London. Um, if you are part of our Facebook group, we're going to announce it in there. But I think for the most part right now, we don't have that many Christian AI specific things happening that we're seeing in London yet. But maybe you can be part of it, part of the solution to convene and have those conversations.
Love it. I love it. Kenny, so we've only got a couple minutes left,
Yeah.
and we've offered a lot of resources for these folks. I want to encourage everybody to just continue leaning into the exponential next AI stuff that we put out. Kenny and his team are doing an amazing job of trying to resource and break things down for people like me who need it simplified in such a way that I can wrap my head around it and then actually apply it. And he's done a fantastic job. There are weekly articles that come out. If you haven't engaged in those before, there's a plethora of them. There's a year and a half
Yes.
of articles that are there, and they're all great resources. They're all there to serve you and serve you well, to be able to empower you to do what you do and do it better and do it faster and do it more efficient and also do it a little deeper and wider. Um, Kenny, is there anything else that you want to share with these folks before we wrap up?
Um, two things. If you're gonna get to the global conference, I am telling you the national conference are a different nature. You should actually go to both. In fact, it's probably two different budget years. One for this year, come to the national conferences in October and November, and then come to the one in March. And then the last one again is just start with a study. Can you start a conversation? Your job is not to become the AI expert. Your job is to steward the conversations in your spheres of influence. And I need your help. We all need our help to figure out how to spur more conversations about AI in order for us to figure out what the best practices are and how to help the people, not just in our teams, but the people that we're called to minister to in the zip codes that we live in. So that's my last parting words, Carrie.
Yeah, Kenny, thank you so much. Um, Folks, I want to encourage you to download the full report. Check out those references that Kenny shared with you, those links that we have shared. They're all there to serve you, and we'll continue doing that every single week here at Exponential under the Exponential Next umbrella with Kenny with AI. And we thank you for tuning in. See you around.